I'm going to call the meeting to order. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The land acknowledgement statement. The Pima County Public Library acknowledges the sovereignty of Native nations and acknowledges the 22 federally recognized indigenous tribes of the state of Arizona and those who inhabit Pima County. We honor the vast and often unrecognized contributions and sacrifices of indigenous people and are conscious of the ongoing experience of inequality and political invisibility. In partnership with Native nations, PCPL advocates access to its educational, informational, and recreational resources.
Right here.
Is there anybody who wishes to speak to the board at this time? All right.
Can I do it?
Oh, Kate?
Can I do that? Let me admit me. Oh, that's
Yeah.
fine. Hi, this is Kate, District 1, and this is my last day. Matter of fact, it's my last minute. As I'm putting my stuff together, I'm retiring. I'm super excited, and to be doing other things, like probably enjoying the library more, like reading books and all that, which will be great. There is going to be a new person that's going to be responsible for the library. His name is Nathan Bacall. And John and I had a long conversation the other day about how, how to introduce him to the library and all the important stuff that you all do. So I want to just take a moment and say thank you, because I have loved being on the library advisory board as a D1 person, learning and listening. And I always thought of the library as the happiest place, like your meetings, happy people. So that's really great. And I'm excited about Wells Fargo. This is my home library, and just keep trucking. I'm super excited about Tess being here and all the new things that are going to happen at the library. So thank you, everybody. Everybody have a great holiday season, and I'll see you in the stacks, as they say. I'll be wandering the rows.
Thanks, Kate. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Kate was a wonderful advocate for
Yes.
the library. She'll be missed for sure. If we can do personal, just
Didn't know she was leaving. Jeez. All right.
yeah.
Cabinet as well. And Francis.
Yeah, I'm not signed in.
She might have left when she saw it.
Yeah, she was on there for a while. Anybody else want to address the board? Okay, is there a motion?
If I could,
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to publicly acknowledge Bonnie Bazana for her wonderful help with helping the Don Otham Nation get boxes for our food distribution. She was a big help in that, and we were able to add that to everything that we were doing, and it was really on the fly. But we got boxes from Amazon. We also got boxes from a private donation. So thank you so much. Just wanted to share that with everyone. Thank you.
Awesome.
Good job.
That's great.
Thanks, Patrick.
Anybody else online? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from November 6th?
So moved.
A second?
This is Cam. I would like to make the motion to accept the minutes.
Thanks. Is there a second? Oh, okay. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
I'm gonna abstain.
All right, one abstention. Very good. Let's see, we should probably do a few introductions because I think we have at least one new member here. So how about we start back here? Pete.
Hi. Pipe Valletta, I'm the Executive Director for the Pima Library Foundation.
I'm Julie Elvick. I am the Community Liaison for District 5 Supervisor Connell's office. I'm also a teacher. That was my career. So I love librarians and libraries and all of that. So I love coming here.
I'm Mariana Padillas, representative for District 2.
Mary Ann O'Neill, District 2.
John Halliday, District 1.
Tess Mayer, County Librarian.
Anthony Batchelder, Deputy Director of Finance, Facilities, and HR.
Marisa Porta, Deputy Director of Community Engagement.
Devin Robles, Library Technology.
Laura Lopez, Director's Assistant and Secretary.
Holly Schaefer, Communications Specialist.
Renee Bibby, Marketing Manager.
All right. And welcome to everybody who's online. I see Cam and I know Patrick is there, so welcome.
What's Francis able to come back on again?
Anybody else?
Looks like we have.
Yeah, I think Francis is there.
There's
Francis. Benavides.
Thank
And
you.
Catherine.
Yep.
Oh, and
Catherine's there
Captain,
too.
okay, cool. So lots of new board members. Welcome. So let's do a summary of current events. If any of the board members want to talk about things they have done in the last month or so, or visits to libraries, this would be the time for that.
I do. I have not been to any libraries, but I did see a librarian at the gym, Karen, and she said that everyone on the Library Advisory Board is very welcome to be part of the library's participation in the Parade of Lights, which is this weekend. So if you're interested, it's on Saturday. The staging area is on 15th Street between 6th Avenue and Arizona Avenue. They're going to start setting up at 5 and like decorating the book bikes. And then the parade starts at 6:30. The library will be marching behind the Dachshund meetup. So that's a thing that you can do this weekend.
And it's really fun. It is,
That's a good parade.
yeah, it's a good
Fun.
parade and, it's dark and everything. All the lights look great.
I
Anybody
do
else?
have some.
Yeah.
This is Cam. So Saguaro National Park has the distinct honor of going right before Santa at the Parade of Lights. But we're on 17th Street, but I am planning on heading over there to just say hello to the team that's on 15th Street. So looking forward to seeing you guys there, dressed up all Santa-like and festive.
Awesome. Okay, any other, John?
Yeah, my wife and I attended the 50th anniversary celebration at El Pueblo Center a few weeks ago, and it was terrific. Yeah, very well attended, extremely well organized. Anna was one of the organizers, and Liz Soltero, one of our former board members, is also instrumental in that. And I was so happy to see the library table there, including Marisa, and you were distributing books and information about the library, and it's just always great to see the library.
Yeah, it was really nice of that. Great to see all the community that came out. Thank you. Yeah, I'm very excited. I was excited to see you. So you're right.
It was good. Yeah, good going. Oh, and also, we were just talking about Congressman Grijalva. They have a display of his doodles. Or at least they had them there that day. Do you
I
know,
think they still have them. up.
Until
Yeah.
January 18th.
if you have the time to go by El Pueblo Center, it's actually very interesting. He was quite artistic. He doodled while they were discussing federal legislation. And he's worked, as you know, there many years, and so he had many doodles. And then a lot of them, he put what they were discussing while he was doodling. And anyway, he's very, very talented.
Prolific doodler.
A lot of fun topics too.
There was a really nice video linked to the publicity for that event where Mona Grijalva talks about the dude.
Yeah. Used to go, I think, as gifts.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Good. All right, any other events or comments? All right, we will ask the Friends and Foundation to report.
I don't, if Penny's here, she can go first. I don't know. if She's.
Oh, You gonna let me go first, Pi?
Absolutely, Penny, you can go first.
Aye.
I just wanted to announce that we finally have hired a new executive director because of Libby's retirement, and the announcement will be made next week as she straightens out her affairs, and we'll be able to make it public. And the starting date will be January 5th. Libby is staying on in a part-time capacity, so she's not gone yet. And I just want to remind everybody, if you are a member of the Friends, that we have our half price Friends sale this weekend. And next weekend will be the community sales from December 12th through the 15th. And that's about it. Thank you. Thanks, Pi.
Thanks, Penny.
So first off, big thank you to the library, to Tess, Holly, and Renee for that email that went out on Giving Tuesday. It's wonderful to get up in the morning and see my other email full of notifications about donations. And as I was sitting there processing them, my email was still going ding, ding. So it always makes for a very happy day. So we appreciate that support. We've also added 2 new board members. We're trying to grow our board. One is Allison Doty. She works with AmeriCorps. The other one is Katie Voll. Katie Voll has been with she's an attorney. She's been with the Pima County, with the Public Defender's Office for 20 years. So it's good timing because if any of us kill a family member during so that's just within the last 2 weeks. So we're excited to have them both. Also, we have 2 applicants for the U of A scholarship. This is for library staff working on their master's degree. We limited it this time to first-time applicants, and we have 2. So we'll be interviewing them probably next week and issuing those scholarship checks to the U of A shortly after. Exciting.
I just got a very nice mailing from the foundation.
Oh, ours?
Yeah.
Like, we're good. Like, where is it?
At least one got through.
Well, okay, good. Make it count.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. New business, and Tara is not with us today. I hope she feels better. We want to talk about canceling the January 1st meeting, I believe.
Oh, I'll move that we cancel January 1st.
Second.
Oh, sure, I'll second
All
that.
right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, we will not meet on January 1st, but in February, Mariana will be chairing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that'll be a good meeting. Downtown library update.
We don't have any additional information on this to report from last month. The team and facilities that's managing the project is still in negotiations with the prospective vendor. So we're hoping that resolves soon and that we're able to move the contract forward to the board of supervisors, but it hasn't, it can't be publicly discussed yet.
All right. And survey info and next steps.
And Renee.
Would you be able to?
Presentation mode here. Actually have a
I wish that
visual.
the screen was a little bigger. It's about as big as it is.
Small print.
Yeah.
Or the other
A projector.
I have the
We
same
can move the table.
issue.
Yeah.
That was Anthony.
Yeah.
And it's funny too, because I have the glasses for close up, but
Yeah, usually.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead. It's all you. We'll just swap it out for funsies.
Like $10 million.
Yeah.
You get a car, you get a car.
Okay.
you to bring your things to do the performance?
I did.
Okay, all right. So we're gonna talk to you about the library survey and the next steps. And so this is gonna let me, oh yeah, all right. So this is what we're gonna talk about. We're gonna do an overview of the survey process that we went through at the start of 2025. We're gonna bring you some highlights from what that survey was. And then I'm gonna cover those first two. And then Maurice is gonna talk about finding non-library users in the LSTA grant that we just got. And then integration into strategic planning. That's what we're gonna do today. Okay, so. There we go. It's all magic. Okay, let's talk about the overview of the survey process. So after the kerfuffle with the futures plan, one of the requests that you all made was for us to ask the community about our services. So we're like, okay, great. Let's actually contract with somebody who knows about the strength of building surveys, what that looks like, right? Because how you ask a question helps create valid data. So something as simple as like, do you like the survey? Thumbs up versus like a 5-point Likert scale, right? So we knew we wanted someone who would help us create really good data. So we contracted with Jessica Hamar, who I think we have, Jessica Hamar Martinez, who we was identified for us or introduced to us by Jessica Thornburg at the time. And she works at the University of Arizona doing data. So she was a great fit in that sense. So we worked with her, we contracted her within August of 2024. And then in August of 2024, the January of 2025 was the development, the review, and then the translation of the survey process. So as we created those questions, crafted those questions, they essentially shook out to sort of two lines of questioning, which was, well, three, I should say. The first was, what do you currently use of our service? What do you currently like about our services? What do you use of our services? What potential future services might you want? And then we asked demographic data. As a keynote, a key point about that, demographic data was totally voluntary. We didn't make that a mandatory part, but we knew that there might be some ways that we'd want to cross-section the data and sort of see, depending on people's identities and lived experiences, if we were meeting their needs. But we made that optional because we know that some people have thoughts and feelings about their data being anonymous and being able to identify them. So we made that separate. So those are basically quick overview of the three levels of what we're looking at. We did share those questions with the people who were currently on the board at the time. You guys gave us some feedback about those. We folded those responses in specifically, and I'll come back around to this. We also added 3 open-ended questions to the survey data that will play into it later, foreshadowing. Okay, so then we launched the data January 31st and then kept it open until March 17th. We had it online with Zen City, which is the platform we had to use to get the data because we didn't have SurveyMonkey. We're not allowed to use SurveyMonkey anymore. So it was online on a platform called Zen City. And then we also had paper surveys in English and Spanish available at the branches. As far as what we did to promote it, we put it out through multiple Savannah messages. Those go to 96,000 people. And that is not the total number of people who have library cards. It's the total number of people who have library cards and for whom we have email addresses. So we sent about 96,000 people. We did that multiple times. It was featured on our website, and the Pima County also did us a solid, and they shared it through multiple platforms on their end. So we put it out into the world, and we kept it open for about 6 weeks. So we give people plenty of time. And so, after we closed, we had, if we're looking at this is probably what I'm going to look on. This is when we don't have deduplication, i.e. using the computer as identifier for people filling out the survey. We're at 7,157 people who gave us feedback, and that was plus 682 paper surveys. Just want to make a little side note about the paper surveys. Those are an interesting technique. And again, we talked about this at length with Jessica. One of the challenges with the paper survey is that if you say to people, choose your top 3, in a digital platform, if they try to choose 4, you can be like, you only get 3. But in paper, that's not how that works. And sometimes people will circle all of them. So there's some data integrity issues with paper. Also, unfortunately, one of the branches, when they made the copies, only copied the front, of the survey. So we had half surveys for some of that. So that is kind of the challenge with a paper survey. And that data was then digitized. So huge credit to Andres and Anissa, who are 2 pages that exist up here on the 4th floor. They manually took all those paper pieces and put them into the digital platform, because that's how you have to analyze it. You have to get it digital. So they did that work. It took them a couple of months because they have they're here part-time, and then they have work they're doing here. And then we put that on top, thanks to Anthony for letting his people to do that work. So bless their heart, they did that work for us. So then as they were doing that work, Jessica continued to do analysis of the closed-ended data points. And I just want to, I don't know if you saw, but that was over 400,000 data points. So she started that analysis from April to June. And then because we added open-ended questions, we needed her to do a separate type of analysis for those. So we contracted with her again to start looking at the analysis of the 2,679 open-ended data points. So essentially what that is, the work that she had to do with that, is she had to read through all of them and be like, okay, what themes are emerging? And then she categorized them with themes. And then as she'd read more, she'd be like, okay, here's an additional theme. So basically you do this continual sort of combing through of the data and pulling out things that are thematic, right? Because you'll have one person saying, I really dislike this, and everybody else doesn't even mention it. That's an interesting data point, but is that actionable data point? Not necessarily. If you have 400 people saying it, that's when you need to pay attention. So her job was to look at that and cultivate the themes upward for us to understand. So that wrapped up about October with that. So here's some key points of what we saw in the data. First was, one of the questions we asked is, do you come to the library? Because we were interested in, like, are you a user or are you not a user? And what that basically came up to is about 68.72% of our respondents came at least once a month, or at least once a week, or every day. So 68% of them, we can say, are library users. And fortunately, when we look at the distribution across the branches, it's kind of hard because there's a lot. This is a white space, but we had relatively good distribution across the respective branches. So then we said, how often do you visit the library website? Because some people might be coming in person, but maybe they're still using our website. And on that, we have about 73.22 people are visiting our website at least once a month. We don't know what they're doing there. I mean, we had some follow-up questions that helps understand what you're doing there, but that's pretty good representation. However, we have almost 500,000 visitors to our website in a month. So that's only 1.5% of visitors to our website who gave us feedback. But a lot of them do use our website, which is great to know. So we asked them, hey, what do you care about at the library? And we were pleasantly surprised. One of the sort of big takeaways that we have from this data is people like us. They like what we're doing. I love it. Print books, still really high up there, right? But, so are culture passes and Seed Library. So this distribution shows that, with a couple of places where we might be looking at, again, we're going to talk a little bit later about strategy, but that there's really good support for the services that we currently provide. So one of the key data points we looked at very, very early was, when do you want us to be open more? And it was pretty clear from this preliminary data that 56.94% of the people who gave us feedback on this wanted Saturday, identified Saturday. So this data, and I think we had reported on this metric because that was one of the things we were really interested in as well. So we pulled that metric pretty early on. I'm pretty sure we reported on it either verbally. I don't know if we ever actually gave you guys this data, but this did inform what we were going to focus on doing with going forward with hours. So that was a really cool takeaway from this. And thankfully Sunday, which we'll get to at some point, this was a nice thing because it also reflected what we were hearing at branches. So let's go to the demographic data. One of the things we asked, again, just keep in mind this was voluntary, and this was not everybody who answered this data, but we did definitely have a lot of representation from women. Again, from a data metrics collection perspective, that wasn't surprising to find that women head of household fill out information for them and their families. We also discovered that only 11, almost 12% would identify as Hispanic, Latino. So that's a pretty big discrepancy based on what we know exists within our community. We also said, how old are you? I don't know why we have 135, but it was an option. And interestingly, I was looking at the data. One person showed that, probably for fun. And so essentially what we discovered was that we had, this was within the 60 to 74 age, we have 36%. And then this right here was one of the next highest at 22.21, which means 56.93 of our respondents fall within the age range of 60 to 89. Yeah, so it definitely, our data does skew female, it skews slightly older. And then also it skews non-Hispanic. So those are some of the key things we looked at. Was what is the data we found? Generally, it was positive. People like, we like what you're doing. We love it. Good stuff. Keep it going. And then we also looked at who was giving us that information. And again, we found it skewed in one direction. That was also not a surprise. We require a lot of different modalities to get a lot of different information for different people. There's a lot of cultural reasons, life reasons that people do or do not engage with a survey. I'm emerging into my survey era. I definitely feel like I've got thoughts and feelings I want to give them. So I'm not, but there was definitely a time in my life where I was like, that's not my jam. It's like, but now I'm like, I think you should know this. So that overall was those are sort of the key highlights of what we came. Now, I also want to make really clear, none of what we showed you was what we would call statistically significant, i.e. there weren't any things that we could say, the difference between X and Y is statistically significant when you're doing actual statistical analysis. What we find are trends, like X is higher than Y, that's a trend, but there wasn't nothing popped out as, again, something where there was something so dramatically significant that we would have to look at it in a way. So even the whole thing about the Saturdays, that wasn't statistically significant. It was just enough of a trend for us to make some decisions about how we might be able to focus on opening hours going forward. So I think that was all mine. Oh yeah, we also looked at, but interestingly, we also had fairly good distribution of income levels within that. That was an interesting sort of thing. Again, not statistically significant, but just that women from a bunch of different income thresholds also engaged with us on this survey. So before I pass it to the community engagement grant, do you guys have any questions about the data part?
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, this is Catherine Thompson. Could you possibly go back to the slide for the individual libraries, because it flipped by pretty quickly and I didn't get a chance to really look at it. I'm sorry.
What? Yeah, no, sorry.
There, further back. Yeah, further back. There it is. That's the one. It just came really quickly. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we pretty much, the thing is that it's too low here. We did also get respondents here, but it's just because of the graph, you can't see that there's actually, but we technically got someone from every branch responding.
Thank you.
And what are you gonna have to
I just wanted to ask if at some point we would see something that included all of the questions, the objective questions and the results that, that we could look at later individually in more detail?
Yeah, I mean, we can probably send you guys the data. Would that make sense to send you guys the stuff? Yeah. Yeah. What other questions?
Was there anything, like, what were the big things that came out of the open-ended questions?
Honestly, that is such a complex roll-up that we're still processing that. Like it is, and the actual, it's kind of like, I'm pretty good at Excel, you guys, but then I saw what she did with the Excel spreadsheet. I was like, wait, what? And she created these like matrices that allow us to, because then she's also cross-referencing based on demographic data. So we're slicing the data in a lot of different ways. And that content was a little bit tricky to see. I would say that in general, just with a quick read without, again, nothing statistically significant popping out, was that it was still a lot of along the same theme of we love you. And of course, because of some of the feedback that was happening in the media at the time, people were like, please don't close. So some of it was that. And so it was reiterating some of the data that we'd already collected.
So she is still working?
No, she kind of packaged it up. But because that content is really complex, it's like we have work to do still to understand what we're gonna pull from that data.
I've been looking at that, and it's one of the reasons it's so complex is there's so many disparate themes coming up in it. I mean, there's definitely a lot of just praise and appreciation for library staff. But there's also just different themes in terms of people's preference around what the library should or shouldn't focus on. There's some critical feedback in there just in terms of topical areas that the library addresses or doesn't address. There's also a lot of feedback about, because it was in response to one of the questions of where would you like to interact with staff in the community, there's a lot of responses about outreach and where they would want to see staff. There's responses about programs that people would like the library to offer, because that also was one of the specific questions asked. I'm trying to think if there were any more. I mean, there's really quite a lot of different themes that come up in it, because it's how many thousands of responses?
Yeah.
That was about 8,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I just can't help myself.
Yeah.
Start reading it,
Yeah.
And I can't even remember because it's so long ago, but was there geographical, like, was there a zip code question or I can't even
No, we
remember.
didn't ask them.
Just the branch.
Correct, exactly. Where do you go? And whether or not, again, like, because when you're asking those types of questions, unless you make it like a 2-hour survey, sometimes you're not getting down to the nuance of, so like, what is your branch? Isn't the same thing as saying, what's your home branch, right? Because like my main branch is Maine, because I work here.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the kind of that trade-off is that there's only like, the data is only gonna paint.
Well, I think this is the better question.
Correct, yeah, that's what
Who
we
cares where they live?
ultimately decided, exactly.
Yeah.
That this is like, where are you going in and where are you using the
Exactly.
services? And then some of it is something like we ask people, like where, have you seen us out and about in the community? And some people said no. And the reality is you hadn't been doing a lot of community engagement, right? And so we said, well, where would you like to see us? Half of the respondents said the Festival of Books. Well, we're already at the Festival of Books. So some of that is the data too, is understanding like, what is our response to that? Because it's not that we need to be there, because we are there, but how do people know that we're there, right?
Yeah.
That's a separate question. Doesn't have quick and easy answers. Yeah. Okay, now, I think
Alright.
it's just,
So I have to like do this whole.
I have one more.
oh yeah,
Do you think it was worth it doing the survey?
absolutely. I mean, I think all of that data helps us,
Thank you.
like, I mean.
Love that.
Ooh, did you guys catch all that? No. That data helps us understand what questions we still need to ask, essentially. And what are the ways we're going to do that? Which kind of leads perfectly into this. Yeah.
Yeah, I think any survey we do is gonna be helpful no matter how we do it or when we do it. Those are all good information points to bring in. So I want to talk about kind of phase 2 of what we're doing. We're starting our.
You have to swipe to the right. There you go.
Yeah, I'll get it. Our community, so it's a community engagement grant. It's an LSTA grant, it's federal funded. It technically started in September, but we had to go through some processes with our county, county departments, getting our vendor on board. And so we've just really started this month meeting with her. So the vendor that we contracted with is Tanya Moreno. She's local. Very embedded in our community, works very closely with many nonprofit and other organizations in town, and has lots of experience doing strategic planning, community engagement projects with different organizations. So I think she has a wealth of knowledge, background, 30 years of experience doing this type of work. And she has her own consulting collective. She's co-owner of that, co-founder of it. And so I think we're really excited to be working with someone that has that experience, is super community focused, and also has that cultural knowledge and cultural humility, working with various groups to be able to get at really non-users. That's kind of the next phase of what we're working at. So the scope of the grant, again, the last survey, it was clear that there were, library users love the library, which is really great to hear. It's great data that we're having. I think what we really want to focus on this grant is who is not using the library and kind of why they're not using it. We're really going to be working closely with our affinity teams, our staff, and the contacts that they have throughout the community. And then, really doing a very inclusive engagement plan. We want to do it bilingually in English and Spanish. We'll be doing focus groups, forums, and also key stakeholder interviews throughout the grant process. I think the bulk of what will be those will be happening is probably early spring is when we'll be going out. And so we're going to be working with different, Renee's team to get the word out, to get people involved, and also our affinity teams, again, the contacts to be able to identify which communities we want to really work closely with. And so, that is going to also bring a wealth of data that is going to be, again, another great asset to this next phase, which is really our strategic planning process. Again, this is not something that we're going to be able to do by ourselves. We'll have to bring in a vendor or a consultant. We really want to make sure that we're doing a long process that has all of the key steps of strategic planning. It's been, I don't remember how many years it's been the last community impact time, probably close to 7 years. So we're long overdue to do this. We really want to make sure that we're giving the resources that we can, that we're getting that feedback from our community. We're doing the data, we're taking the data from the survey and also the LSTA grant data that'll be integrated into this. There'll be other sources of data that we'll bring in. We're going to be doing an environmental scan. It's really, what are we doing now? What does the community need? What kind of services do we really have right now, and what do we need to have in the future? And really, I think that part is also really bringing in our staff into this process. I think that's super important because that's really what's been missing from a lot of these other projects that we've been doing. So that's really about the community engagement, staff, and also other stakeholders in the community. I think we want to make sure that we're not duplicating as well, that we're looking at what we've done in the other two projects, the community survey and the grant, and kind of reaching out to other groups, other community groups to bring them in as well. Of course, after we get our data, we're going to have to look at how we're going to prioritize our goals and, what are we going to focus on, how we're going to implement it. And then really it's about constant evaluation and adaptation of those programs or services that have come out of this. Strategic plans usually are on a 3 to 5 year cycle for libraries. So really, as we're finishing this, we're going to have to start thinking about starting it all over again if we're going to be doing it in the way that we should be doing it to be impactful. So I think that's it. Is there any questions about?
Can you go back to the?
Yeah.
So how long will that take? In a perfect world.
Like a year.
I think
about a year.
We have a head start because we're leading in with so much engagement already. And that would usually be a considerable part of the process. But I think just in terms of the number of people that need to be involved, like the scope of engagement has to increase. And then there's all the synthesis of the feedback and then the development of the goals. And you can kind of develop the higher level goals, and potentially we may need to look at mission, vision, and values too. I think we should have we should agendize that and have a conversation about that so that we can seek your feedback about whether or not to incorporate that in part of the process. But, you can develop the sort of higher level public goals and address the mission, vision, and values, but then the operational planning, actually creating the specific, work packages that internally we have to do to address the goals. In my experience, that takes at least another 6 months. So it's sort of like a phased, and as indicated here, but I think for us to get to the point where all the operational goals are done, it would probably be probably 2 years. Like, so we would have the plan, but we would need to continue to do the internal work to make sure that every team had their specific goals that were rolling up to the plan. And I just think you have to do that in stages because, you know, it's a collaborative process, and so it takes a longer time. Because each team will be discussing this and developing their goals in relationship to the broader plan.
But the strategic planning, that is subsequent to the community engagement grant being completed, or can there be?
I think we're
dovetail?
gonna start, we're gonna start this process prior to that other grant.
Because that community engagement grant would be like a year.
Yeah.
It'll end in September, because that's when our grant, we have to report on our grant because it's a federal LST grant, so it would end this September. But I think what we've talked about is we have to start beginning this process even prior to that, so.
We're gonna start the RFP process, and that would mean at least sharing with you likely the draft RFP for your feedback, because you may think of things just in relation to what we're proposing is done. I think your feedback would help us sort of make that proposal better.
So the RFP is to choose a consultant to help with this
It would
project.
be, yeah.
And what I forgot to mention too with Tanya's work with the LSTA grant, she actually is looking at the survey data sets as well. She actually says she's a data nerd, so she's been looking at that. And so that's where we're starting, is looking at that and trying to see what's missing and how we can formulate questions to get at that. And so it is being integrated into this grant, what we learned from the community survey.
I like this idea of agendizing the mission, vision, values conversation, especially since we have so many new board members. Maybe refreshing everyone's memory of what the current ones are. Can you talk a little bit more about the plans to engage non-library users?
I think we're really in the infancy stages of that. And I think I can share more of that as we decide which focus groups or community forums we'll be having. It's really, I think a lot of it is going to be driven by our affinity team, not the knowledge from our affinity teams and the staff and the contacts that they have. Trying to figure that out. And I think we had our first meeting this week. We're going to meet again in January to get the ball rolling on that. But I can share parts of that as it comes along. I'll be happy to share that with the team.
And can you describe how the affinity teams collaborate with the community engagement? Like, how do you guys, are the programming schedules generated by the affinity teams, or are you just both working together, or is it different from team to team?
So each of our affinity teams has, a group of staff that work on it. They have a chair. They all report up to Alina, who's part of our community engagement office. So they're part of our community engagement office. They all have contacts, that many of them are from our different communities that they're, for example, our Many Nations team, there's staff on that team that are part of many of our Indigenous communities here in county and wider spread. So they have contacts there. They know about, events that are happening. And so we get requests from the community to our teams, and then that's how we navigate our outreach. And so I think they are really uniquely positioned to know many of the groups that are just like many are non-users or have not had any, they've had limited contact, or the contact that they've had with library services is that we've done outreach at different events. And so that's the contact that they've had. I mean, I know I'm part of SSIESIS, and I remember going to and I still go to outreach every once in a while, but you always inevitably talk to like people that come up to the table and are like, we didn't even know there was a library down the street, or we didn't know you were here, or we didn't know you did this. So I think, those outreach and just the embedded, they are really embedded in many of those communities with just the events that they've been doing and the contacts. So I think they'll have really good ideas of where we can go out and maybe focus some of that feedback, getting that feedback.
I just want to add too, that I think there's currently just the added challenge of people not necessarily wanting to engage in public. And we know that that there's a cross section of people that are underserved and also not wanting to engage in public right now. And so I think trying to figure out how to do the engagement with people, that will definitely be something
That we'll have to take
that
into
we'll
account.
have to take into account. Yeah.
And Tanya, who's also bilingual, part of why we're working with her is because she also has connections that will allow us to engage with communities you might not yet be connected to.
And so, can you make a stab at when some results of that community survey might be shared with the public?
I think what can be challenging about this is that I think our sort of greater obligation is to understand how that data shifts what we actually deliver to the community. And so I think once we sort of have a sense of what that is, like your feedback created this impact, that will be the point at which we want to communicate clearly. But what's can be kind of tricky about that is that that's part of that process, and like where does that lie? And it kind of, so that's sort of around the area of strategic planning. So strategic plannings are public facing, clear communications to community about how we heard them and that how we're hoping to serve them better. So that's might be the place where we're gonna sort of like really hit that note strongly. That being like not next month, right? You know, it can take us a little time to get there. I think going forward, particularly as we engage with the strategic plan consistently, those touch points can be frequent and clear. So once we get the momentum going, it'll be much easier for us to do that on a regular basis.
Anybody online have questions? Comments?
I had a question.
Yes, yeah.
This is Patrick Andrews. I was just curious if there was any survey responses. I don't know if you'd be able to pull this up or able to tell from the Tohono Nation reservation area, or was anyone able to comment or contribute to the survey?
No, I say the short answer to that is no. We did ask, there was in the slide included about what people identified their race. And so I do know we have some Indigenous respondents, but we don't know where they were. So, and we kept that separate intentionally because we didn't want people to, again, for the anonymity of the data. But I would say there's definitely communities we do think we need to reach out to better.
Yeah, especially with this grant.
Yeah. I don't think it was, no, we definitely need to do
Yeah, I
more.
think we need to be more intentional about that.
Correct,
with this
yeah.
next phase.
Thank you.
Anybody else, comments, thoughts? Okay.
I think this sounds like a really good plan to start planning.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Holly.
I don't have too much today. I just wanted to share, highlight 3 blog posts that you can find on the website. The Pride team, there was a member of the Pride team, Tara Wright, who every year would commemorate Transgender Day of Awareness on November 20th with a blog post that included the names of transgender individuals who had been killed in the previous year. So it was very a hard blog post, but very important. And Tara is no longer with PCPL, but Ruth Ann, a team member who works here at Maine, took the torch and published the first one, their first one. So you can find that online. Madian from Arivaca wrote a really great piece about 2 of their team volunteers that you can find. And then this was my first time working with Connie. She works at Quincy. And she did a really great post about the writing style of authors. So you have the visionary, the artist, the psychologist, and then she gave different examples of books. So if you're looking for someone who does this, and it's a really cool tool that you can read and say, oh, I connect with that and I love this author, I'm gonna read some more. So yeah, those are all online on the blog, and I'm gonna enjoy them with other stuff too.
Thank you.
Of course.
Marissa?
Coach, I just wanted to just thank Holly. The Savannah email that you sent out to 96,000 people today about the Baker and Taylor challenge, I thought that was really important to get the word out there so people understand why they're not getting books as quickly as they used to.
And we were very pleasantly surprised that we got a lot of replies, people saying thank you for the transparency and thank you for what you're doing. This is a hard position to be in. So it was uplifting to get that support, because it certainly was unanticipated and is not easy right now.
Yeah, I'm sure it is hard for the library staff to have to deal with this, but by getting the word out, hopefully, the people who read it will pass the word along. If we're talking about, somebody complains about why the library is slow getting newer books, newer hard copy books. Anyway, so Russ is a big challenge for me, but I think it's really great that you got the word out to the public. So thanks for doing that.
Of course.
I don't have anything else to add. If there's any questions about the report, I think I just want to highlight performance that Massachusetts is sponsoring on December 13th at 3. They're Flowing Wells Library. You can see the information on our social media and website, but it's Tucson Jarocho, so it's Jarocho music. They'll be performing, and I think it's going to be a really great performance and event. The first time we work with that group, so you have time on that day to hop on by Flowing Wells at 3 p.m. on December 13th.
I piggyback on that. There's also a blog post about the group.
Yeah.
My fourth blog post.
But I don't think Emmy's here today. Anthony?
Yeah, so there's just a couple things. The hiring is still ongoing. It seems like there's when you look at my vacancy report, it looks like there's a large number of them, but 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of those 27 have actually already been picked or placed. But because this is November's report, the additional 9 start in December, so we didn't want to include that as being hired just for factual data. But and then there's another 5 or 6 of those that are actually going through interviews as we speak. So the hiring process still is ongoing, but we are a lot of productivity, a lot of good hires, a lot of good candidates. So that's really good. Any questions on that before I move to my next one? Additionally, at the last meeting, I got a couple questions about the budget, and so I just wanted to follow up because it was also quoted by the reporter that I said $57 million for the budget, which is fairly accurate. So it's $57.1 million, but that's only for personnel and operations. If you add in capital, which was what we had budgeted for the RFID, it comes out to about $58.7 million. I said it was a true 50-50 split, but with capital, that accounts for 2%. I know Patrick had asked that question, so I just wanted to follow up and get more detailed answer on that. Personnel accounts for 48%, operations is 49% of our budget. So just more detail to that. But additionally, we've provided an additional document, if you could pull that up. Go to that, just the main slide. If you can click the next one. I'm gonna stay seated for this. I don't want to get in the way, and that way if people that are online can see me. So what this graphic is just a representation in the next future 5 years what our fund balance will be, with a rate increase in the blue, without a rate increase in the orange, and what our projected reserve requirement will be in the green. As you can see, even if we do get a rate increase, the blue gets really, really close to the green. And if we do not get a rate increase with all the outflows, with everything from all our capital work to even PEEPs, in 2 years, we will be below the reserve threshold, where it will require a 10-cent increase to get back to that reserve threshold. And if we don't, by that 3rd year, we would be negative balance.
Meaning,
We are not bringing in enough money, so we will either have to make cuts. Restoration of hours will not be as,
Robust.
yeah, if at all.
I think we would have to actually make more aggressive reductions in the overall budget, basically. And depending on what happens this year, we're gonna have to begin a planning process for that so that we're not being reactive and trying to make changes at the last minute.
So I know that there's just been a lot of talk about the reserve and what does that look like to our fund balance? We talked about rate increases, but we haven't really seen them from like a graphical representation, so it's kind of really hard to flesh that out.
This is very graphic.
Yeah, I think we're all,
Yeah.
visual.
It's a good one.
Not everybody likes to stare at numbers in Excel all day like myself. That's kind of my forte, we all kind of like to see the visual. So I think this kind of helps paint the picture of what the library needs to keep moving forward with the operations and transfer outs that we do have occurring within our cash flow. And I just wanted to follow back up on that. Is there any questions on that?
Yeah, this is a very useful visual. My question is, how do you increase the tax rate?
The tax rate increase is a recommendation that comes from county administration, but it's voted on by the Board of Supervisors. The Board of Supervisors have the final say on what rate increase occurs for our library district, because when they vote on the rates, they sit as the library district.
So what's the process for that?
So it's funny that you bring that up because we are in the thick of budget season right now. I'm working on the budget currently for FY27. We submit our requested budget to county administration in January, kind of like I did last year when I get locked out. Then Jan, Steve, and that group kind of start coming up with tax rate scenarios in conjunction with finance that they start bringing to the board of different scenarios of what they might be able to do from a tax rate perspective. From the general fund, the library, flood control, the different taxing districts that they kind of weigh into that. And then that process is really fluid throughout the spring. And then they really solidify it kind of in May, and they do their final vote kind of in June. Yeah, it's county administration is really the one that works with the board to produce those rates.
So they get all this information and they'll get a copy of this or something like it?
Finance produces different scenarios based off what the county is asking. I am asked to give this to county admin, which I suspect we will have conversations with county admin about our budget, because we usually do with Steve. I can always bring
It
this
would
topic
be
up.
a good accompaniment for the policy, the reserve policy.
I agree.
I think that's a good idea.
It's good timing.
But I think when they sit as the library district, they just have complete discretion about the tax rate.
The board of supervisors does, they can.
Secondary tax rate.
Correct.
Yeah.
They can, there is a limit that they can raise it each year.
Yeah.
There is a cap, based off of a formula from the legislature, but they can pick something different than what county administration does bring forth. The board does have the final say on when the rate would.
And what the cap is for the library district?
Offhand, no, but I mean, it would be really high, like we're not there yet, like, I know, they wouldn't need to raise it that high in one fell swoop, right, at this time.
I assume this is based on current property values,
No, it factors in a increased property value rate, which is actually a worksheet that comes out of finance. They have future forecasted valuations for the out years. That's actually the group that I came from, had that document.
I just had one other question, which is not related to this graphic, but the RFID project, is that very affected by the Baker and Taylor problem?
No, right now that has just kind of been on hold because we were moving forward with a specific vendor and we have kind of thought about going out because the contract process was very, a lot more difficult than we had expected because of procurement and what they wanted us to engage in. So we are looking at a more robust procurement process to find the right vendor.
So the scope of that project, I think, needs to be expanded and sort of revisited, because I think that there was interest in potentially using an existing contract for a much smaller city, but it doesn't really encompass the different aspects that we need to look at for a county system of this size, including lockers.
Just for both lockers.
Because we're having really significant problems with the current approach to lockers, and I don't think I don't think we'll definitely investigate it and do our due diligence, but I don't think right now that it's a long-term viable solution in terms of what's currently happening with lockers.
But it does, that project is factored into the expenditure, in the future expenditures.
Any questions, online members? Okay. Thank you, Anthony.
You're welcome.
And Tess.
Thank you. I just want to kind of go into a little bit more detail on some of the things that I referenced. I just mentioned something else. One of the things I wanted to just reference is the fact that we, so basically in response to just information from staff that are aware that ICE or Immigration and Customs Enforcement activity is still continuing in Tucson, we just wanted to make sure that staff in all of our locations are prepared and know how to respond to a law enforcement or specifically federal law enforcement request. So we reissued just a description to all of the staff of how to respond in the event that something occurs inside of the library. And this was something that had been created prior to my arrival this past fall, but I think we really want to make sure that each local team is prepared and is really familiar with this information. I just want to expand a little bit on something that I mentioned in the report. We've been having some really good conversations with public services managers, particularly branch managers, about our hours of operation. There are a number of locations that are still 5-day agencies. And so that could mean either Monday to Friday or Tuesday to Saturday in some cases. And I actually took a look just because I thought it was helpful information for you to have. Right now, 13 out of the 27 locations have Saturday hours and 19 out of the 27 have Monday hours. And so we've been talking about where might we add either a Saturday or a Monday to some of our locations. And we're trying to do that obviously in relation to demand and sort of community need basically. So we're not yet prepared with the roster of where we would anticipate the changes taking place. We still need to have some more final discussions with staff around that. But I wanted to mention that we're in the process of doing that. And I think it's just important again to reiterate that these changes are contingent on a request that we'll be making to the Board of Supervisors for some additional positions. But the budget for the positions has already been factored into the library's existing budget allocation. It's just that we need to the procedure is to go to the Board of Supervisors to ask for the positions to be added. In our case, it's really for the positions to be restored because they were cut. And we've talked about this before, but we've lost a high number of positions up until 2024 because county departments were not able to sort of maintain vacancies for a certain amount of time without the positions being taken out of the position control for the department. So I think the time that they're allowed to exist is 8 months. And so we've talked about that a lot, but I just wanted to mention that any changes in the operating schedule are contingent on that approval for those positions. That includes actually the staff that we need for mission, which is reopening in spring of 2026. I'm happy that you mentioned the parade. That's something that I'm looking forward to on Saturday. I also just wanted to thank and acknowledge Marisa and a number of staff at the Central Library. We're working on partnering in an event for tomorrow with Rocky Perez from the Southern Arizona Education Council. I believe I got that right. Outgoing city council member. They're bringing back a democracy forum. And I believe the registration for the event is closed, but it'll be interesting. A group of people, members of the public, are convening in the courthouse. There's going to be a panel discussion with local electeds and leaders. And then people are going to come over here tomorrow night. And they're going to break into groups and discuss different concerns to the public. And sort of engage in what's called dialogue circles around these various topics. And I couldn't be happier that we're able to do things like this again. I think it's just a reminder that libraries really are about supporting democracy and the democratic process. And so it's very fitting that we're going to be able to be a part of this. So we'll let you know how it goes. And that concludes my report. Did you have any questions?
I just wanted to say I was really impressed with the number of branches that you visited in the last month. That was quite a lot.
Thank you. I'm still short some. I'll be at Arnica on Saturday. Wow. I'm going to meet the friends of the Arnica Library and get to participate in their holiday tea before the parade, which should be fun. And yes, I have a few more to get to. But we're looking forward to going to Sells on Monday, and hopefully meet Francis in person. Cool. So that'll be nice.
Do you think tomorrow evening's program will get any media coverage?
I'm not sure. That's a good question.
I know they plugged it at the board of supervisor meeting. Jen Allen spoke up about it, so I know that's broadcast. So there's definitely some there.
And so you said they would be coming here in the evening. So
it's an after hours.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
And I think it was exciting, it's a wide range of ages.
In the past, I think it had focused on teens, and I think they just decided to change the event a little bit, or it could be just a new event, but they wanted to expand the participation, so it's kind of an all ages event now. It's cool.
And I just had one other question. The sort of protocol for the potential visit of ICE agent. Was that something that the county attorney helped with?
Yes, absolutely. We really do need to engage with our partners in the county attorney's office very frequently, and that's the kind of thing that we would always vet through them to make sure that we have their feedback.
And extensive conversations with
Yeah.
And all of the county facilities are getting the same advice.
Yeah.
I
We
don't
worked
know
with
if they've
county attorney Steve before Tess got here.
Yeah, that's a
And
good
made
question.
sure we had ironed this out, like, well, what's our protocols, what's our steps?
Good.
Who do we talk to first? How does this go? I think we are,
I don't know how widespread our process is.
I'm gonna ask.
Departments, but
I think it's a good follow-up question, actually, because I don't know whether or not something has been issued elsewhere, but it could be
Yeah, and maybe
potentially.
it's something I'm curious about. Any questions for Tess online? All right. I think we are ready to move to adjourn.
I don't think we adjourned.
I can second.
And all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Very good. We're adjourned. Enjoy your holidays.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.